Okay, hello everyone. Welcome back from the break, and also want to thank all of the organizers and speakers and other participants in the meeting. It's been an absolutely incredible convening of this community, and it's really a privilege and honor to join you and also share some updates and announcements from the Chan-Zuckerberg Initiative focused on our pediatric networks for the human cell atlas. My name is Jonah. I'm a science officer at CZI and lead our single cell biology program. And for those that are less familiar with CZI and CZI science, let me first kind of introduce us and some of our goals, and hopefully also provide an update for those of you that have maybe been familiar but have not heard from us in a little while. So within CZI science, our mission is to support the science and technology that will make it possible to cure, prevent, or manage all disease by the end of this century. And currently, where the focus of our support and our efforts are on accelerating biomedical science by developing new tools and technologies, as well as supporting open and collaborative models of research. And hopefully in this framing, it also clarifies one of many reasons that we are so enthusiastic about supporting the Human Cell Atlas community and their efforts and all of your efforts to build and compile and analyze references of all the human cells in the normal human body and advance single cell technologies via these open and collaborative research models. So within the single cell biology program, our specific focus is to understand human body and diverse diseases at a fundamental unit of life, that of the single cell. And the vast majority of the single cell program's historical support has been on supporting the Human Cell Atlas, going back to the initiation of CZI science now about 4.5 years ago. And in fact, this has always been a flagship project for us and was the first external program. And so we've learned a lot from all of you and are, again, very, very eager to continue to support and extend the impressive progress and start to work towards new and exciting areas of research, such as all of those that have been shared over the last couple of days. So historically, within the single cell program, we've supported the Human Cell Atlas through a number of different ways. And really the focus of our work has been on the healthy reference data, extending and hardening tools and technologies, and perhaps most importantly, building those open and collaborative communities that we believe are one of the key levers to advancing science at ever increasing speeds. And within that, the focuses have been on the generation as well as the assembly and understanding. So thinking both about data generation, but also extending computational tools and all of the analytical resources that are going to be necessary to analyze, interpret, explore the vast amounts of data this community are generating, improving on the tools and technologies via benchmarking and development of new assays, and then also interactions and supporting some work outside of the normal healthy reference to understand cellular mechanisms of disease and the virtuous cycle between generating reference data and applying it and using it to explore data sets. And so what that has looked like on the right is the kind of single cell of the single cell biology program at CZI. Much of this work, the foundations of it are within a large program that I think we've heard a little bit about that we've called the seed networks for the Human Cell Atlas. It was extended into some projects looking specifically at inflammation and inflammatory disease, and are now looking at trying to extend some of that early work to address some of the gaps and iterate along with the community on what we see as really important and exciting areas that are poised for greater success. And that includes pediatrics, which is what I'll talk about now. So over the last number of years, we've had 5 requests for applications. Those collaborations and those collaborative networks have resulted in really an incredible amount of data generated and advances in the field. And I think maybe to underscore one thing that's particularly important to our group is also building these collaborations, but doing so through a very international lens. So within the CZI single cell program, there have been investigators currently or in the past working in over 26 countries. So really genuinely looking to support international efforts within the Human Cell Atlas. And I think, as I think Cricket mentioned in the last breakout reporting, the participation in this meeting as well as others is really exciting and important, and hopefully opens the door to many new collaborations in the future. So another thing that's really important to mention in this context is that Priscilla Chan and her husband, Mark Zuckerberg, who are the founders of the Chan-Zuckerberg Initiative, really bring their experiences and lived experiences and expertise to bear to the different areas that we're focusing on. And many, I'm sure, are aware that Priscilla herself is a pediatrician and practiced medicine at UCSF. And I think that her experience will resonate with many of you that are thinking about development in pediatric diseases, which is that we still know so little. And she speaks very elegantly in a recent article in Stat, as well as in other venues, about the wrenching experience of being a pediatrician and having a sick child, especially in a critical care center, come into your clinic and just not having any answers. And it's kind of underscores the importance of basic science to provide those answers and arm clinicians and communities with this knowledge that hopefully we can advance care. But in particular, I think really speaks to the exciting possibilities, but also the critical need to understand pediatrics and pediatric cell types and their maturation and evolution around and in the years after birth. And so this has been something that we've been inspired by and seeing in some of our earlier projects, but also appreciate that there's so much more work to do. And so has really been the focus of trying to provide these dedicated mechanisms of support. So earlier this year, we announced a dedicated RFA for Pediatrics, the pediatric networks for the Human Cell Atlas. The goals of this work are to build on some of the earlier efforts across the Human Cell Atlas that are looking at pediatrics, but really to expand it and start to provide a larger amount of foundational data, as well as start to understand some of the unique differences in that data that might drive the development and maturation of single cell tools and technologies. And I think we heard some wonderful examples of this related to unique challenges in understanding lineage and temporal sequences within the cell types that are going to be critical for understanding and interrogating these atlases. So specifically interested in clarifying unique cell types, their functions and evolutions, but also back to this theme and the point around collaborations, supporting collaborations that are both new and require support to establish themselves and grow, but also provide opportunities for existing collaborations that are poised to expand. And again, I think this meeting is pointed to many, many examples of extremely exciting work that is ready and really poised for additional growth and significant impact. Finally, want to absolutely support international collaborations that promote equity and bring in equitable interactions among the scientists, but also include diverse donors that represent equitable benefit and participation in these atlas building efforts. And of course, this is going to require bringing together many areas of unique expertise, in particular, building out networks that include pediatricians, community engagement experts, computational experts, and of course, single cell and tissue experts. So I'm happy to announce the results of that RFA, which will go live right now. There is a link here to the website so that you can see more about all of these projects. In just a minute, I'll speak very quickly about a few kind of nice examples. In total, it will be over $33 million in funding and will include just about 100 or exactly 134 labs and investigators around the world. Of course, the networks will be even larger. But among those networks, there will be science that will be conducted in 15 different countries and a total of 17 teams that span, I think, really an exciting and diverse array of different tissues and organ systems. Okay, so let me give a few examples just to kind of share some of the excitement and also hopefully stimulate the discussion and perhaps also start to build excitement for one of the keynote talks from Muzz in just a little bit. So one example, I think, that is a wonderful example of a project that ties into some existing work within the Human Cell Atlas and going back to earlier stages of development supported by the Wellcome Trust, and will now go into pediatric skin. And I think there's a few very, very exciting facets of this project. One is the participation and engagement with underserved communities in the east of London, but also the opportunities that Muzz and her team will bring to understanding pediatric inflammatory diseases, infections, and different disorders that have a disproportionate disease burden. I think another nice example of an opportunity for an existing network to grow and expand is a collaboration looking at the pediatric liver, led by Alan Mullen and Gary Bader and Sonia McParland. Again, bringing together a number of different modalities and techniques that they have refined in adult samples and extending this into understanding the spatial gradients. And this is also a fun example, as I mentioned, because it builds off of the existing seed networks for the human cell atlas. And here you can see all of the faces and networks of those groups, how they have interacted with and started to work and refine the knowledge of the liver with a CZI inflammation network. And now starting to couple and link and network all of these groups with the new expertise related to the pediatric networks. And they were very quick to also point out that there's always possibilities, and so to reach out and let them know if you are also interested and you would like to engage. It's an incredible group that's making a lot of progress, but are also just wonderfully collaborative and open. Okay, so an example of a new collaboration, and I think a particularly exciting one because it represents an area of the human cell atlas that has maybe not been studied as extensively in the past, but presents unique opportunities and importance for understanding pediatric disease, is an effort led by Monkol Lek at Yale University, looking at skeletal muscle. This again is quite an international effort. And so in addition to looking at a previously understudied tissue within pediatrics patient populations, it also is bringing in a unique opportunity to interact and collaborate directly with rare disease organizations that are led by patients themselves. And in particular, an organization called Cure CMD, which stands for Congenital Muscular Dystrophy. So a great example of those diverse expertise, engaging with patients, the donor and community engagement aspect that I think will bring a wonderful and really impactful way of working with this community. And finally, an example of the kind of the hyper-international model, and I think a really exciting opportunity to build an atlas of the nasal mucosa is being led by Jose Ordovas Montañez, but is bringing together and building a new network across 7 different participating sites around the world. Here or on the map, you can see the blue dots are all of the sites participating in this particular project. The yellow dots are sites that are participating additionally throughout the other pediatric networks. So just to highlight both the distribution and the international nature of these collaborations. So this site or this new project is going to establish and build a collaborative network that spans the US, India, Bangladesh, the Gambia, and also in the West Indies in Bermuda. So with that, I will thank all of you. I think we will have some additional time for questions. I did include the link down there at the bottom, and again, due to time, I did not have enough time to introduce or do service to all of the exciting projects, but the websites should be live. They include all of the investigators, they include project summaries, and I think speaking for myself and others at CZI, as well as these networks, would really enjoy hearing from all of you and doing everything that we can to support these projects, but also encourage and make connections in the future.